welcome to the KVJ After the Show podcast.
Kevin's eyes look insane, but he's got new hair. Virginia is a witch, and she farts in her chair. Jason is a spaz who's got an old man's ass. Welcome to the After the Show podcast.
Yeah, hello and welcome to the KVJ After the Show podcast. It is a Friday. Virginia has gone on a family vacation to Buffalo, New York. She'll be back on the show on Tuesday. So she's off doing her thing. I think Panda, her husband's cousin, is having a baby. So they're preparing with the whole family coming in for that. So there you go.
Do you know how much vacation you have? I was looking at my vacation. I have a lot of vacation.
Yeah, we get 4 weeks, 20 days a year, and I've not taken much.
Yeah, I haven't taken much either.
Yeah, I will be out for 2 days, I believe, coming up in a week or so for that trip to San Diego, but Virginia's going to be gone as well. So
I was sick a couple times this year, though, but I wouldn't call that vacation. It's not vacation.
No. Yeah. So, I don't think I'm going to hit my 20 this year.
No, a lot of times we usually don't take all the days.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get them all in, but I've always told myself, I'm like, you got to do better and take more vacation, but I'm not doing great with that this year.
Do you feel like when you say that to yourself, I want to take more vacation, is that you wanting to go out to the world and explore, or is that you just taking a vacation away from your career and kind of chilling out? Is that what it means?
Yeah. For me, vacation. Yeah, we don't often go places. I love just being here. So to me, just to not have the responsibility, because that's the problem when you do the show, is that you don't unplug. When I start work Sunday afternoon, getting ready, and then you are not done until Friday night, and then you're usually too tired to do much. And so really my only free day is Saturday every week, and that's the only day where it's like, okay, I can not think so much about the show, but I still do show work and do videos and things like that I post on social media. So
some people think I'm insane sometimes. We'll just be having a conversation. I go, hold on, I'll grab my phone. I go, I got to put something. You just said something that reminds me of stuff.
Right.
So you're right. You never really kind of.
You don't. And you need to. For what we do, if you don't ever unplug, then you kind of get caught up. It's like being in a blender. And to be creative, a lot of times you got to get experiences in life. You got to go see the world. You got to give time to not think about something, because then you just get a little bit fried and burn out. And I don't do that very well. I need to be more effective. So probably take a little bit of vacation here in the fall. I think we might go see some football games. So yeah, I'll have a little vacation coming up here.
You should.
So yeah, there wasn't really anything to do. We took a couple days during the 4th of July, and that was good. It's a nice little break. But yeah, there just wasn't anything to do. So maybe this fall we'll do some more. We were talking earlier about the true crime. There was a show that we had seen, and I need to watch more of it because I wasn't really even aware of the real CSI Miami until they had the Ballin Isle show. Somebody put that on our radar this week.
Well, it sounds like one of those scripted shows. I thought it was like an SUV unit show.
Yeah, it's not a scripted show.
Yeah, I know. That's what that's what I thought it was. It sounded like one of those CSI Miami, CSI Philadelphia.
I think that's why they call it the real CSI Miami.
The real CSI. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know how long they've been doing it. I can't remember what season the Ballin Isle episode was and the date on it, but somebody put on our radar season 1, episode 2, and I think it's season 1, episode 4, I think have some connections. So, but it's all going to be South Florida stuff. I might go through and just start binging all those, because that Ballin Isle episode, like I said, I'm not going to give away what happened, but that was a fascinating episode.
So that type of content where it is not scripted, it's real crimes done in documentary form, like a 48 Hours or one of the. That's arguably, other than stuff that makes me laugh, my favorite kind of content.
I think you'd like it.
It sucks you in, man. They all do a good job. If they're any of the ones that do the pre-production kind of documentary style. They're usually all pretty good. Like your 60 minutes or your 48 hours.
If I get time, I think I might start going through them because they really are just they're fascinating. And then it's South Florida, so it's local. And I was just like, I don't know of any other part of maybe New York. You could have it.
California too. I'm telling you, there's a lot of shit in California.
That's true. That's true. But I mean, aside from those 3 points, I don't know many other places that have. I mean, the stories that we have when you started going through the murders and the true crime stuff that you have from Versace to Epstein's and all that kind of stuff. They just not many places have that
to that
level.
Big three. No, you're right. It's Florida, New York, and California where the weirdest shit and your big stories. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in other states, but on the reg, those three are going to always give you.
This Sergio Pino story, the guy that just killed himself, who was trying to have his wife killed and had 2 different teams of hitmen trying to take her out, had been trying to poison her with fentanyl, and then it all went south. And this is a guy that hobnobs with all the biggest names, or did, in Miami. That's just a crazy story too.
And there's a lot of stories that people don't even know about that, somebody's been stabbed 11 times, left for dead, and you don't really ever hear about that story, and you'll see that on a documentary. There was one that was at one of my old apartment places. It was on a show called I Shouldn't Be Alive, and she survived because the janitor, the guy, the maintenance guy, had a key to all of the apartments.
Yeah, okay.
And went in there and tried to kill her and did terrible things. But you didn't know about that story until you heard about it 12 years later on a show.
It is
and there's
amazing.
a lot of stories like that.
It's amazing how much stuff just because there's so much going on here in South Florida that there's really some crazy stuff, and it takes a CBS drama to find the story and exemplify all the details for you, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize how crazy that was.
It's an exploding market on YouTube. So many people do. There's so many documentaries on all of these serial killers. You can tell that people are trying to find other cases that people don't know about because the other ones are so played out now.
I vaguely remember the story and what CBS did too. They showed the CBS News 12 report because that'd be their local affiliate that did it. The news didn't get into just what it all was. And it's probably because they don't have the time, but I do remember the news report, but it didn't go into how they made this happen and how they solved that case.
Oh, if it's local news, a lot of times they don't go into a lot of the great details. You just don't get that what you're talking about.
And that's what makes it a story.
Totally.
All those little intimate details. And you were talking about the Christopher Wilder story,
which is a crazy case.
For anybody who doesn't know it, what was the gist of that one?
He was a rich boy. He grew up with money. I don't believe he was born in the States. I forget where he was born, but he was a rich dude that came from daddy's money, and he would pose as a photographer here in South Florida and go into malls and go up to young girls and say, hey, you could be a model. I'm a model photographer. Just come back and I'll give you money, all this stuff. And then he would kill these girls.
Wow.
But he did it to a point where from Miami all the way through up to Port St. Lucie, he had killed people and left their bodies out. And I remember my Aunt Ann was working at Sunfest at the time. Okay. And she was not home. She was running late, and my mom was so scared.
Oh, wow,
and so worried that Christopher Wilder got her.
Wow.
That's how big that story was at the time.
Okay.
People there were women being left out, murdered, and then he killed all the way up and down the coastline.
Cecilia said, I was around him in the 1980s when he was a race car driver. He drove SCCA races at Moroso Motorsports.
Yeah, that's
off
here.
the Beeline Highway.
It's here in Palm Beach County.
And he was never somebody you would ever thought that he would be capable of murder. It was a shock when everybody found out, to say the least. You're like, what? I was around 16, 17. I remember my dad and stepmom talking about it, how they were just stunned.
It was. He was a rich dude that had all of this money, had all of these.
It's odd.
He was a race car driver. Right. You're right. He was.
That's what makes him more fascinating.
Well, he was high profile, kind of. And usually if you're murdering people, you're not so public.
Yeah.
And his crimes were bad. Like bad.
twisted.
Bad crimes with Christopher Wilder. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I wonder if anybody's done any documentary on him.
They have. That's what they've done several on him.
Yeah.
Your 48 hours and all that.
Okay.
If you typed in that
Might need to see a
name,
little bit more. Yeah.
you'll. It's a crazy story. If you're into that kind of stuff
Yeah.
and you don't know it, it's got South Florida ties. It ends in a dramatic fashion.
It is big. Honestly, the true crime stuff. That's Only Murders in the Building. It's smart. The show that I'm watching right now on Hulu. It's all about crime podcasts. That's how it is. They were junkies of it, and then they get in, they do their own, and that's what the whole world is about.
And from what I understand, too, here in South Florida, especially in the 70s and early 80s, we had a terrible motorcycle gang kind of a problem with the crime. I'm not saying you'd see motorcycle gang guys all the time out fighting in bars, but they had a lot of crime down here, which was sex trade stuff. They would kidnap young girls and then put them in some kind of a sex trade type of thing. And I didn't realize that stuff was going on, but apparently it was pretty big here in South Florida back in the 70s and early 80s.
I remember as a small child, the motorcycle gang, Hells Angels especially, they had a reputation. I think that started because they worked security at maybe it was a Rolling Stones concert. Hells Angels was the security, and there was a guy acting a fool, and they stabbed him and killed him and threw him on the stage.
Jefferson Airplane.
Jefferson Airplane?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and so then that, I think, really lent to their reputation as, oh my gosh, these guys are ultimate badasses.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that was even the ones they're talking about. I think there was different kind of syndicates out there.
Yeah, I know that South Florida still has a couple of the Enforcers, and there's a couple other gangs around here.
I think the motorcycle gangs have cleaned up, but I think back in the day, it was drug and sex stuff that they were doing, and obviously murder.
Yeah.
And you weren't supposed to fuck around. The cops were nervous to deal with the motorcycle gang.
Yeah. It is fascinating how it's all kind of gone down, and now I guess it rotates. Now everything is cartel. You know, people don't want to get caught up with the cartel, and I don't know if you saw, but they made a huge arrest. Have you ever heard of the Sinaloa drug cartel?
I've not.
Okay, I love cocaine. Ismael Mario Zambada Garcias, they call him El Mayo, and El Chapo's son. I don't know what they were thinking, but they landed a small plane in El Paso, and DEA was waiting and snagged him.
Really?
Yeah.
When was this?
I think it just happened yesterday.
Wow. El Chapo's kid?
Yeah, El Chapo's kid, because they got El Chapo, then his kid was running it. And Sinaloa is known as they're murderers.
Did he want to get caught?
I don't know.
Sometimes getting caught might be the safe way out.
Yeah, I don't, it goes to show you that maybe these drug lords, they do run in and out of America unchecked a lot of times, and maybe they finally got him. I don't know. Or did they finally grow onions big enough and took a chance, and the DA was just waiting, and as soon as they landed, they got him. I don't know. I have no idea how it went down, but it's fascinating stuff. And it is right now. They were just talking about how Mexico is kind of on the brink of, they're close to being a narco state, meaning that the cartels run everything. They're in the middle of it, and they got their fingers in government, and a lot of them are elected officials.
It's run by the cocaine people.
Yes, when you become a narco state, it's just that the cartel runs the country.
So does that mean cocaine is legal, or you're allowed to do cocaine?
It means there's no one that's going to stop you because the government's in on it.
But if they wanted to stop you, they could. There's
no one to stop.
If it's for their gain, they whatever they want to do, they can do.
They do everything. They run the whole thing. So that's why other countries will get involved, and they'll be like, okay, they're a narco state. That if you would have to go to war with that country in a sense, because the head of the cartel's running the country.
But the people probably don't want to be a narco state. Or does the narco state, like a Pablo Escobar, do they provide for the people, but also murder some people?
From what I've gathered in all the specials I've seen, it's always fascinating to hear from people that are from Colombia or one of these countries that deals with it. Some of the poorer people, like I was just reading, I think it was in Colombia, smaller rural farmers, they were making money off of it. They were raising the cocoa plants, and it's kind of been squeezed out. They're not moving as much. Cocoa, the fentanyl and the human trafficking is kind of taken over. And so the demand, that's what they're saying. Colombia is creating more cocaine than now people want. And that started to hurt some of these farmers. And they're like, okay, well, we got to do something to make a living.
Somebody's going to want that cocaine. I know humans that won't go to waste.
Well, that's the problem. Is some of it is piling up, and they're not moving it as much because the demand for the fentanyl is kind of taken over, and so people. And I think it's cheaper.
There's people in the chat room going, "Send it this way."
Right, I know. Yeah. There are some that would enjoy it. So, yeah, when you ask if the people want it, some of them are like, well, it does provide jobs. And, they don't, the morality of it is like, look, man, we just want to feed our family.
Okay.
But then the murder starts to spill over sometimes. And then innocent people are getting killed. And that's when I think that, from what I understand from the documentaries and talking to people, they don't like that. Like, that was the problem with Pablo Escobar. He started off giving out money and helping people, but then he started with car bombs and then innocent people that were just in the fray. And I think it's tough in some of these countries. I think it's hard for people to stay out of the narco because that might be about the only industry that you have in your town is to run security or be a part of it or get into one of the narcos, because as you said, they would love to have other industry where it's not dangerous, but it's just not available.
This is probably a really stupid question, but
okay,
can you run a place or a country where cocaine is done responsibly? Or you can do cocaine on a responsible level? Or is that just an insane thing to even think of?
No, I don't think it is. It would be interesting, what would happen if they really tried to regulate and say, hey, you can be adults and, here you go, here's the cocaine, and let's, like any other industry, you create cars, you grow corn.
You don't do it Scarface level, but if you had X amount.
What would happen if they organized it? Yeah, imagine if they made it like you made buying wheat. Anything along those lines. It was just a product, and they organized it, and they had farming. And
just a little bit of cocaine.
People grew it.
It sounds crazy.
It does. I don't know. I mean, as much death and devastation as still happens, they dabble with it. And then there are some cities, they said, like they used Portland as an example, where they said, you know what, we just legalized everything. Let people be adults. And then the homeless issue and people just freaking lose their mind. And so they said you have to have some kind of regulation on that. So there's arguments both ways.
Well, I grew up in the time period where Dare was huge.
Yeah.
Cocaine was bad. I mean, you're talking, so cocaine was always a scary thing for me. So I don't know about cocaine, but is it something where if you, like we're talking about, could you regulate that? Or am I just speaking out of school here? Is that an insane, you can't have a bunch of people on cocaine?
For me, it doesn't sound impossible.
They made it seem like everyone was trying to fight each other. You're always sweating.
Now, I think the differences from what I see, and I'm not an expert on this, I've only seen things and more documentaries and whatnot. The crack cocaine seemed to get people really whacked out of their minds. Regular cocaine, some people use it to try to sober up when they've been drinking. Other people use it to just like they would use coffee. And look, I know a lot of people in the fields, they would chew on the coca leaves and it kind of gave them a stimulant. It kind of helped keep them going. That didn't sound like that's too radically crazy.
Okay, if our entire floor, the 5th floor here, we all just took a little bit of cocaine. Is that a productive day, or does that turn to hell in a handbasket quicker than you can say Texas toast?
No, I think it'd be, look, the one thing that was eye-opening to me was when I first started doing radio, we used to go to Houlihan's like every Friday. It was right by Wall Street. And I remember the first time I was there working, I'd only been in New York for a while. I was coming from small town Ohio. And bell goes off, the doors just all of a sudden, there was like no one in the Houlihan's. All of a sudden it's packed. I'm like, what the hell happened? And there were guys just doing cocaine at the bar and doing shots. I'm like, the fuck is going on, man? It blew my mind. I was turning to people like, is this like, what is happening? I didn't know what was going on. And they were just laughing, looking at me. And they're like,
look at this newbie.
Like, that's the first time I'd ever seen cocaine. They're just doing it off their hands and everything else. Well, they're doing cocaine almost all day with the pressures and stresses of what they deal with. Now, a lot of those guys burn out pretty fast. And it's rough, but they're living their day and they're making money on Wall Street and dealing with the pressures.
It sounds like you are definitely backing up cocaine for the sales department and for I guess
I don't think it's insane. And then it's like with everybody. Look, some people, it's like with alcohol. Some people can do it. Some people can even be functioning alcoholics. You never know. And then you have people that fall apart.
For sure.
It kind of depends upon where your tendencies are.
So you think there's probably somebody on this floor that probably operates at a better, more awesome level with some cocaine in their system.
There are a lot of people that argue that it's a big part of their success. It keeps them going. Not healthy for your heart, and eventually I think you're going to pay the price.
Well, cheese
on your
isn't
body
healthy for,
later. Exactly. It's like with anything. Yeah, you're doing it's like smoking cigarettes, cocaine later. Yeah, you're wear and tear on your heart and all that stuff.
Well, I wonder, because I remember, people thought, I'd always hear the stories, weed is crazy, don't get in. I smoke weed, and I don't think it's crazy, because now that I'm in that world, I'm not in the cocaine world. So if you're not in that world and you've been told it's this crazy, terrible world, look, growing up in the dare culture, it made you scared of fucking drugs.
No, I hear you, but I think in the grand scheme of things, and this is only from what I've seen, I don't put cocaine in the scary category. I put weed and cocaine. I put cocaine above weed.
Yeah.
But I don't put it in the, oh my gosh.
Is that because of just the crime level, or because you think it's more of a stronger drug?
It's because I think you can be a functional adult on it. Now, where you start to get crazy, you get into the oxys, you get into the heroin, you get into the fentanyls, and then you start seeing people, and people are doing that one drug and it's eating their skin. Those are the kind of things where I'm like, oh my gosh, you go past a level of terrifying. Those drugs, to me, that can cause pretty much immediate death. Now, you can do too much cocaine and blow your heart up.
But one thing I've kind of learned here today is I think Kevin
reasonable small man. I do. I got a fascination with it. I've seen people. I really have seen people that I know were on it, and they would do a little dab here and there,
and then crush it. So Kevin loves cocaine,
and I would watch him. I wasn't envious, but I saw him, and every now and then they'd sweat a little too much. And they looked a little, but...
Well, think about all the movies we'd watch, too, growing up that have cocaine scenes. And it was, if you're doing coke in the movie, that means you were doing something bad and edgy and dangerous.
There are some people you see with tendencies, and I still today, I'll see, and these might be characters in pop culture or whatever that you do, and people will nudge and be like, look at how they're talking. They're unaware of how fast they're talking and how they're going.
Because of the cocaine.
Yes, and that sometimes is a tell.
If they're doing too much, or just in general.
It's just in general, but that's the quick little like you could do with caffeine. Sometimes you don't realize that you're manic, and it's just that you're doing caffeine. The same thing happens with cocaine. Yeah, there's somebody I was watching an interview yesterday. I'm not going to say it because it would drive everybody crazy because it's a political thing, but it's a person, and they're like, look at how that individual's talking. And they're like, that is a sign that they might be doing blow.
So caffeine really is just
it's a stimulant.
It's unfun cocaine.
I put cocaine at a higher level than caffeine, but it's still caffeine to me. You got to put in the drug category. Because it does. It alters your body state. That's what I think drugs are.
Anything that does alter your state, I would put in the... I mean, look, when I quit soda...
Yeah.
Because I could feel withdrawal coming from me.
Right.
I really...
There's so many things you put in there fairly. It's a spectrum, man. And that's why I put things where I'm like, it's pretty benign to it's absolutely insane to eat your face off. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that belongs in that spectrum.
Well, it kind of just sounds like you want to have a cocaine party. I don't know. It's just I'm just saying.
I'm fascinated by it, but I'm not. When I first got to town, a little bit here and there, but yeah, I'm not. I'm not a drug person.
Could you imagine
people were wondering?
Me and you doing a bunch of blow and then trying to come up with ideas for the show? What that would sound like? That'd be a pretty insane.
It would be insane. Well, that's just it. That's what I think the cocaine is. You think that you're crushing it, and everybody else around you like, oh my gosh, they are going, they're at times 5.
That's why you need a partner to almost be in that same headspace.
Everybody around you, but if you're the only one, everybody notices, be like, they're on coke.
You can't be the only creative guy or woman on coke in a group full of people. It's too much ideas being thrown at people.
Ashley said if you guys did coke, every bit would be 30 seconds.
And probably insane.
Oh, it'd be absolutely insane. Yeah. Got an email here from Ryan. He said, been listening for a while, and you were talking about the school ratings and the crime stats that are all misleading. And one thing I learned about stats, that come out. It's also how bad cause of death stats are messed up by the government, especially the DEA. Yes, we have an opioid crisis in this country and a fentanyl epidemic, but I got this information from a friend of the family who's a DEA agent. And he said, like, if somebody dies from a heart attack, they also had a small amount of any kind of opiate, even if the opiate was prescribed to them and the amount was in no way enough to kill them, they would still qualify as an opiate overdose. Yeah, you remember with COVID?
Yeah.
That was the big question. They were saying the COVID deaths, and people were like, no, they didn't. They died with cocaine or with COVID, not because of COVID.
It's a stat with a twist, and those are if you have stats with a twist, it's hard for you to kind of get behind them.
Yeah, I think COVID really started to open my mind that unfortunately they'll come out with these stats, and a lot of it is so political to the point where one side or the other tries to use as an argument to bend to it, because they do. They got to be held accountable for whether it's border crossings or inflation, or it might be school ratings or whatever it is. Both sides, equally use these stats, crime stats, whatever it might be, to try to bend a political agenda to their narrative.
And everyone's got an agenda, and if you're debating or you're doing whatever, you want to. I mean,
it's unfortunate.
No one cares if it's real or. I mean, I shouldn't say that. People do care if it's real or if it's a legit kind of study, but I think a lot of times people in charge don't care. They just want to win the battle.
What's unfortunate for us is it to me is not going to make me favor one party or the other. What it's going to do is, for instance, and we talked about this, New York City. You'll go on the news and be like, oh my gosh, the crime in New York, you can't go there without, getting raped and shot in the first 10 minutes.
They're growing mohawks again, and they're in the alleyway.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like it's 1979 right. New York City.
So, look, I've dropped into places and be like, I don't think I should be here. This doesn't feel safe. But, I hate that when if they're going to use and manipulate crime stats, I may not go to a city that is completely safe and it would be fine, and I would have a great time there visiting. But they've lied to me. And now I've got a fear of it, and I won't go.
Well, the fear tactic is a real tactic, and
yeah,
it does,
no doubt.
and it does work. But is New York bad or not? Can someone give me the truth? The news makes it seem like New York has fallen to shit. Is it not like that, or is it?
No. I from what I've heard, just other people commenting on it, New York had a moment. I think it was like in the 70s. Maybe into the 80s, and then they cleaned up for a while. They kind of seem to ebb and flow on that.
I mean, everywhere's got, bad areas and crime.
It had swung a little bit, but nothing that, is insane.
The news does make it seem like there's like a Mohawk gang out there spraying everybody with paint.
Mm-hmm. Some people are saying, like Yasik said, NYC is horrible, and Gator Girl said, yeah, it's a mess right now. So.
Okay, well.
I haven't been to New York in probably 10 years. So.
Look, 2 people in the chat room said it. I believe it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I go on now. I would not listen to news now, and I'm going to go with people that I know and a little bit and be like, okay, what was your experience in New York City?
Well, that's why people do like social media during times where for example, let's say I'm out and I'm filming something and I'm going on social media saying, this is really happening, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know me and you trust me, so you would trust what I'm saying, and I've got my own version of showing you what's going on. People start getting their news that way through social media and social media commentators.
Yeah, that is truly right. Why we are leaning on influencers more, because there's, even if you don't necessarily know the person, they're an influencer, for whatever reason, you seem to trust them because we have such a distrust of our media today. We have a distrust of our government bodies, our entities. Well, you don't trust anything.
Look at the Trump shooting thing. That film was from a bystander just standing by and reporting on it, really. Yeah. And it got all of that.
It's the most credible stuff we got.
Was from people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't trust the leaders that were trying to give us details about it, and they didn't really give us any. But yeah, it's kind of interesting just how many people now want to get caught up in the game. 54% of all workers said they would quit their job to become full-time influencers. That's a majority of Americans.
But then if everyone's influencing everybody, then no one's really influencing anyone.
It's the argument.
That's just the way of the world.
And how are businesses going to support all the influencers, the demand that's out there?
You're not. It's going to get watered down. It's like a huge menu. You're going to get lost in the sauce. And you know how it goes.
64% of social media users would gladly accept payment from brands to promote their products. Yeah, so people are like, if I'm on it anyway, I might as well take it. And then there's some kind of attitude that goes with it. I saw a video of a girl the other day. She had gone to a restaurant. She was a TikToker. And she had ordered, I think, about like 8 or 10 items. She was sitting there on the table. She was making little videos of it, whatnot, you know, for her little TikTok channel. And she calls the waiter over and she said, yeah, this got cold. I need another one. He's like, well, I can reheat it for you quickly. She's like, no, I want a whole, brand new one. He's like, well, I have to charge you for it. She's like, no, you don't get it. I'm a TikToker.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that's not how it works. She's like, that's how it works, because if not, then I'm going to blast you. And they had somebody else was filming her because they didn't trust her, because she was starting to talk in inflammatory language, and you got to see the whole behind the scenes of how she was trying to work it. But yeah, she expected that I'm a TikToker.
Well, you're not.
You're going to throw all this shit my way.
We all put our pants on. No one's better than anybody. Just because you're a fucking TikToker or just because you're a celebrity, it doesn't mean diddly dick. You're just a person.
Yeah.
You don't get these special. You don't have special powers just because you've got followers or people like you or you're beloved. It doesn't mean shit.
It does carry true currency. It is kind of odd. I've seen it. Like I said, my daughter, in fact, he was in here. He works at, he does clubs. His girlfriend works at Space. And a lot of times, and I noticed it, I experienced it when I went to Nashville and I was trying to get to the rooftop of the Graduate. And you had to show how many social media followers you had. And there was a certain cutoff on it, on whether you would get to the rooftop or not, based on what you had. So it was true currency.
Oh yeah, let me rephrase what I mean. When I say it doesn't mean shit, I mean on a spiritual level.
No, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I absolutely know it does with clout and all that stuff.
But that's what people are doing. When they feel like they get to a certain level, they can then go around in society and make demands like that to say, yeah, or well, I'm a TikToker and I've got 50,000 followers, so I'm in the club of you've got to give me another meal.
It really turns it brings out the monster in people.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Got to look in that ugly mirror.
Mm-hmm. Boy, this story is a little nutty. I was talking about SIM swapping earlier and how they can take over the two-factor authentication on your phone, and you're basically screwed. So if they're trying to send you, if you use text messages to get that verification code to get into one of your accounts, the hacker would be getting the code once they had that. They would be sending the verification code to them, and you're completely screwed. So what it looks like, they look like the actual account holder, and you look like the hacker.
I mean, doesn't it make you want to take all your money out of the bank and just bury it?
It's complete insanity.
Somewhere in a secret place.
It's complete insanity. And so bear with me. It's a longer story, but I believe it's worthy. It's Heather here, whose sister went through this experience. She had this happen earlier this year. She's 40 years old. And we have all heard the stories of hackers and people trying to steal identities, etc. She received a phone call, and she usually doesn't answer the phone, but she was waiting for another call, so she just happened to answer this one. But I can see people doing this through text message as well. Well, the person claimed to be calling from Verizon, a phone company that she had just switched to about a month earlier. They said that somebody was trying to hack into her cell phone at that moment and were trying to stop it. So she was a little suspicious at first, and they said to her, look, we're not going to ask you a bunch of security questions or anything like that. And through their discussion with her, they got her to trust them enough that they asked her to create a 4-digit PIN number. So she gave them one that was not her cell phone PIN number. And they acted like that was okay and that they were trying to stop the hack from happening in the moment. Next thing you know, when they felt like she had gotten more comfortable and trusting of them during their phone call, they said that she's going to get a text prompt and to put her PIN that she had just created into that prompt. So she got off the phone and she received a text from a number that was consistent and correct with the other real Verizon text messages that she had gotten when she set up her phone with them a month earlier. They spoofed Verizon's real text number.
Wow.
That's what's freaking scary, right?
Yeah. Well, how do you not lose?
She's already communicated with his exact number and had it saved in her phone as the Verizon text number. She's like, okay, they're authentic. It's the real Verizon number. So she puts in the new PIN number. and not her real PIN number. And it kept getting declined. And she's like, what the heck is going on? So she said, look, I don't want to forward my number multiple times. And the guy called her back. And she got so annoyed that she ended up putting in her real PIN number, and that's when the hack happened. As soon as she puts in her real PIN number for Verizon, the call drops, and suddenly her phone can get no service immediately. That's how fast it happened. It takes about 24 to 48 hours to then finish porting a number, but they were able to get into her Cash App, Zelle, PayPal email addresses that they probably knew from an internet search or a background check. Come to find out that the person who said that they were trying to prevent a hack was actually the hacker. Every time she would try to recover her email or log into various accounts, they would just undo it and change her passwords. So she had to go to a store and spend hours with an associate who didn't believe her. They're like, no, you're a hacker. She's like, no, the person who keeps changing the thing is the hacker. They're like, yeah, right. So she ended up losing a couple $100, tons of hours. It could have been worse, but she finally made it happen. But if somebody ever contacts you from a company, hang up and call the actual company to confirm.
I don't trust none of them anymore, Kevin.
No,
I don't trust people knocking on my door. I don't trust people
Nothing.
calling on my phone,
Nothing.
texting me.
No,
Walls,
none of them.
baby.
I delete them all. I'm like, I'm not going to, you know what? I've been getting Facebook. I've been getting Disney. I've been getting all this kind of stuff every day. And I'm like, you know what? If it just all of a sudden doesn't work, then maybe I'll deal with it then.
It makes you want to go back to a simpler time sometimes.
I delete every single correspondence I get from what looks like verifiable accounts, numbers. They have the logos. They have everything. I just delete it. And they'll be like, sorry, this is your last warning. We're going to shut everything down. I'm like, fine, do it. You know what?
yeah.
You'd probably be doing me a damn favor.
Hackers and criminals, they love this technology.
It's crazy.
It's great for stalkers.
Yeah, we're at the point. I honestly, I just feel completely lost in it all, man.
It's a good time to be a bad guy.
And I don't even feel like it's as crazy as it's going to get.
It's not. That's what's horrifying. I'm not trying to be Freaky
I
Friday.
really am terrified by the whole thing.
Dude, I know. I get it.
It's just nuts.
Well, it's not going to slow down.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. And we dealt with it with my son and his Xbox. Somebody got the authentication. We don't even know how. And so when we kept sending the passwords, they had it, and they kept changing the password on us.
Makes me think all those old fucks in my family were right about not wanting to do any kind of technology and cash apps. They're always afraid someone's going to zap my savings. And they're right.
I just don't know if there's any, I don't know if there's any going back now.
No, I hear you, but it's just funny. They're kind of right with some of this stuff.
Yeah. Drew said with the unreasonable YouTube jail, I believe that if you win your appeal, then YouTube should have to provide supplemental options such as free advertising or marketing for a day or two, or they could send some kind of statistics showing that they will push your channel back to its regular momentum. YouTube should recognize it takes momentum to get more views and people seeing. Even one shadow ban can ruin most channels. Do you agree? Yeah, no, I agree.
We were quite depressed about it.
That's why.
We took it hard. Last week and this week was very tough for us because we felt bad about the YouTube. We've worked hard trying to get it to what, I mean, we're still not even happy with how many subscribers we have, but we've worked hard to get that much.
We got the momentum going, and then all of a sudden, kaboom. It almost seemed like a conspiratorial thing because it's like we got momentum, and then they dinged us for something that we've done before and wasn't bad at all.
Good news is this, just charting the numbers yesterday, it was looking like it was kind of heading back to normal, and it wasn't dinging us for stuff. So
yeah.
I was kind of optimistic yesterday when we started posting again.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're good.
Okay. Yeah, I hope so. So we are going to open ourselves up to maybe hopefully doing our own platform on our website as a place so that there will be viable backups. I'll even look into this Rumble and see what that's all about and get to other platforms because we did not have a viable backup when we got dinged on YouTube. The Facebook was not a good replacement.
No.
The Twitch was not a good replacement for the regular show.
Instagram doesn't work for it.
Yeah. So we'll continue to look into it and figure it out. Somebody said it's a good thing Virginia's not there. Her eyes probably would have glazed over. We talked about murder, then we talked about tech, and she would have been.
Now, she loves murder. She does love murder.
Right.
That would have been, but tech,
yeah,
gone.
Yeah.
I think we talked about something else that she would have been
Glazed over. Yeah. Sorry, this is what happens. We talk about the Virginia topics that she would glaze over when she's not here. So. Yeah, she'll be back on Tuesday. So sorry about that. Send us the emails, comments, the topics that you want to hear and talk about. Mail at kvjshow.com. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Goodbye.